Hello, everybody. So I just want to go more in depth with the material tutorial that I did last time because a lot of people have been buying the PBR materials from my store and they had tons of questions, and I just want to address those questions. So what I have here in the scene is a few different scenarios that you might run into when you're trying to apply PBR materials to your objects. So we have the house here, so I'm going to show you how to texture the house. And then we have a couch, one of my rugs, and then a chair and also a mirror. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to assess the scene. We're going to assess all of the objects that we're wanting to place colors on. And this is important so that you don't mess anything up. Like I said in the last video, you definitely want to take a copy of everything that you're working on, just in case you do mess something up and you don't know how to go back. It happens a lot, or I see it a lot specifically with houses. People will drag and drop a material onto the house and it will color the whole house. And I'll explain why that happens as well. So when we're going to assess an object, I'm going to start with the couch here. I'm going to right click on the couch and go into edit. And then you have these different tools here that you can use. So you have here where you can see how many objects are currently being selected. And you have the edit linked here, and then you have select face. So these are the ones that we're using. So I'm going to go to select face, and I want to click on different parts of the furniture to see what kind of comes up in that selection. So this particular couch has only one face. So all of the faces of this couch will be changed once we put a material on it. And I can show that just briefly by going to color here and then just changing the color. So you can see that while we're in select face, all of the faces of this couch are changing. With this chair, if I do select face on different parts, you can see that the highlight is on different parts of the chair. So I know that the red bottom here is separate from the seat, right? All right, so we haven't gotten into the PBR materials yet. I just want to show you. With this carpet, it is also just one face. You can see all of the faces of that change. With this mirror here, we have one face, and then we have a second face. Right? And it's important to know this because of a few different reasons that I will get into later. Now with the house, so let's come out of select face. Let's go back to the move tool. If you select the house, it's actually the entire house. And some creators will do everything linked together, and some creators will do certain parts linked together and certain parts individual. But if I was to go into here and change the color, it's actually going to change the color of the whole house because I have not done select face. I've done the entire house. So now if I go into select face, then I can select these individual faces to texture. Now there's also, if you go back to move and then you do edit linked, then you can grab everything that is a link or linked together as one object. So if I wanted to texture this entire roof here, then I could do that. But it might be the case, right, where even in edit linked, there might be separate faces. So I built this house, so I know it is. So I would need to go into select face, and now you can see that there are different faces even in one linked object. So this is important when you're wanting to start texturing things or retexturing things. that you actually know what it is, like how all of the parts link together or work together or work separately. All right. So now that we have an understanding of the difference between the select face and the edit linked, we can go ahead and start texturing. So if you've bought or purchased materials from my store, you know that if you hover over each individual material, you can see a preview. And what I like to do is I'm in Alchemy. I'm not sure if it's set up the same way in Firestorm, but I can go over here to switch between views if I have a folder selected, and then I can see an entire inventory of my textures here, my materials. So the easiest, but not always the safest way to use these materials would just be to drag and drop, right? Now, I built this house, so I know that I set it up in particular to work with the drag and drop so that I don't run into any mishaps. So I can simply drag and drop things to different parts, just like this. And everything's going to be okay. But you might not have that with the houses that you guys are renovating. So another option instead of dragging and dropping is to right click, go to edit, select the face that you want to change. And then by default, you'll probably see that it has legacy material here. Just switch this to PBR metallic roughness. And then you'll get a new menu item here that says choose from inventory. Now you can navigate to your folder, and you won't always see a preview, but you can navigate to that folder and then press on one of those, and then you'll see it is now applied to that particular face. Now you can also select multiple faces at the same time. So if I go over here, I can go select this face, but I can also shift and select this face. And then here we go again. It's still on legacy material. I'm going to go to PBR. And then I'm going to choose from inventory. Material. Right? There you go. So now this material has been applied to two faces under select face, although they are separate faces on the mesh level. Okay. Now, another issue that you're going to run into, because every creator makes their own UVs on their mesh items, and they might not correlate to the same size of the material, like the pattern on the material that you're using. So you might want to scale the particular pattern on the walls. So I'm going to go to select face. I'm going to select this face here. And I'm going to go down here where it says scale UV. And I can change this number. So it will depend on the current mesh that you are working on. But in this case, I can take these numbers up to 2. And you can see the tiling got smaller. Show this on another. This one's a little bit easier to see. Now, if I take this number up to, let's say 5, now the tiles are really small. And if I take this number, let's say to 0.5, you can see it's much bigger now. And I'm actually going to run into that issue when I texture the couch as well. So let me put a material on the couch. Okay, so this looks pretty, although it's not exactly what I'm going for. So what I'm going to do is going to select face, and it's going to select all of them because that's how I made this couch. And then I could take this number up. So if I go to 2, it's going to double the tiling. Or 2. You also want to scale these in proportion to the material being applied. So let's see if I can actually find squares. When it's a busy pattern, you can kind of get away with it a little bit more. But all right, let's use this one for example. Now, these are hexagons. Don't quote me. But they should be more proportionate. These look stretched right now. And that's because the underlapping UV needs to be changed. So if I go to 3 and 3, then that looks great. That's how the pattern is supposed to look. And if you hover over, you can see that that is the proportion that it is supposed to look. Now, if these numbers were different, like 3 to 1.8, then you see it's a little bit more stretched. It no longer contains the same ratio as we have over here. So it might not always be 3 and 3. It just depends on the mesh, and you'll have to scale accordingly. So I can take this up to, say, 7 and 7. Yeah, so that's a little bit better. Now with the rug, this one's very simple. We can just go to select face, change this to PBR Materials, go to choose from inventory, or we can just drag and drop. Now just be very careful when you're dragging and dropping that you don't drag it to the wrong place, because I've definitely done that several times. Now, let's say we're going to come out of face select. So we're going to go to move, right? Now, if I wanted to tile or change the scale of the U and the V for this object, I would not be able to do that. This would be locked here because, for one, these are separate materials. And for two, one material is legacy and one material is PBR. So even if I go to PBR, I will not be able to change these numbers here. So that's why I have to go to select face, or I have to go to edit linked in order to change the tiling here. I've helped a few people, one particular that had a pool that had a lot of different faces linked together, and it was very important to select multiple materials that are PBR instead of also legacy, because then that cancels that out. But if I choose 2 that are under the PBR, then I can change the scale. Although I would always scale them individually. Now, let's say you did not like this PBR material that you put on it, or you accidentally put a PBR material on the entire house. If it came with legacy materials, then the easiest solution would be to go to choose from inventory and then click none. And that way it'll reveal the legacy material underneath, and the PBR material that you put on top will no longer be there. Just like that. Go back to dragging and dropping. All right, so now I'm going to cover the mirror, since I've gotten a lot of questions about that one. So first of all, I'm going to put a material on my frame here. I'm going to select the face of that frame, and I'm going to change this tiling to 6. And now, all I need to do is I can go to my inventory here, and I can right click on a folder. So I'm going to right click on my materials folder, and I'm going to go to create new material. All right, and I'm going to name this mirror. And then I'm going to right click and open it. Now you can see here we have the different properties of this PBR material. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the roughness all the way down to 0 to make it super shiny. And then I'll click save. That's all I need to do. It's going to be a white tint with a roughness of 0. So we can drag that on here. All right. We're seeing some reflections, but it's not a mirror yet. Okay, so the mirrors definitely trick people up a little bit. So I'm going to go to create, and I'm going to res out a cone. And I like to use a cone because it just makes a little bit more sense to me, because you do have to rotate the prim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to face the large part of the cone, the circle part of the cone, towards the mirror, because basically this is the camera. So think about the front of this being a camera, and you're facing the camera towards the mirror. So now that I have that there, I'm going to go to features. So features here, and I'm going to go to light. Sorry, not light. Reflection probe, and then I'm going to change that reflection probe to a box. And then I'm going to turn on dynamic and mirror. And now, once I press that in, I can just scale this. I'm just going to push the mirror in to the cube, but not too far. And then there you have a mirror. And you'll have to fiddle around with this a little bit. You want it close, but not too close. Outside of the prim. Here's a mirror. If it doesn't look like that, make sure you go into your light box or your preferences and then turn on mirrors. That way you'll be able to see it. All right, so I think that concludes the more advanced application of materials. Just let me know in the comments if you have any questions.